Hey Rebel Rouser, I'm Alan Voiland, and this is Star Wars 7x7, your daily dose of Star Wars joy, and thank you so much for joining me for it. So, Brotherhood is the short story from Mike Chen, who wrote the novel Brotherhood. This one, of course, the short story is from a certain point of view, and it involves Anakin and his last moments alive, and then his first moments as a Force ghost. So, if you've ever wondered what happens to somebody when they go through that transition in Star Wars, well, yeah, you basically get a really good and well executed and described answer from it. And there are some beautiful moments in this story, starting from the very beginning of it when Anakin is struggling for his last breaths and he is trying to convey what he thinks are some of the most important things that he has ever said in his life, and trying to tell Luke to tell his sister that Luke was right, as we recall from the movie. And then in the transition, and as he goes from dying to becoming, part of the living Force, but also being aware of himself in the Force, there's a thing about him burning like a Tatooine myth, like a sun dragon, which is great for a callback to other Star Wars storytelling. It's a story that Shmi used to tell little Anakin when he was very young, that he had the heart of a sun dragon and basically was just, immortal, indestructible, that sort of thing. And there's also a moment where Anakin gets to hear other people talking about him in conversations that he was not present for, including when Obi-Wan and Luke first talk about Anakin in A New Hope, when Obi-Wan refers to him as a friend. And it's funny, it's beautiful. Anakin reflects on when the last time was that anybody referred to him as a friend, and obviously it's been 20 years, but yeah, even more than that. And then in the midst of this, Obi-Wan, or at least Obi-Wan's consciousness, appears with him, and they have a discussion about how, Anakin just feels like, there's something I never told you. I was supposed to be saving people, and I just, I made a promise to myself that I would. This is back on Tatooine after his mother died, and that I just utterly did the opposite, that I just created all this suffering, and he wants to take responsibility for everything that's happened in the galaxy, and Obi-Wan has to, even now, teach him and say, you're only responsible for your own actions, and everybody else collectively is responsible for their own actions, so you are only responsible for, a small set of things. And what's more is that, Obi-Wan reminds him, you also did something of tremendous consequence for the good in protecting Luke, saving Luke, and bringing an end to the Galactic Empire. Later on, they go down to Endor as Force ghosts, and Anakin gets to see the funeral pyre that Luke has set up for Vader's body, and Obi-Wan refers to Luke as both the present and the future. And later on, when Yoda joins them, he's talking about Luke and Leia and says that their future is going to be bold, but that it's uncertain. And they also talk about Leia and how she has taken her first steps in the Force, but it's ultimately going to be her choice whether she goes down that path. And they acknowledge that she has many strengths that are, beyond the realm of, outside the realm of stuff that traditionally Jedi would be focusing on. So yeah, they are, of course, at the victory celebration, and Anakin observes a handsome caped man, which of course is Lando, and then sees Han, and also gets to see R2-D2 and C-3PO. Like, he has a moment where he's like, hey, that's my buddy R2, and that's the droid 3PO that I built all those years ago. So he has these beautiful nostalgic moments in there, and also just sees the fierceness and wisdom in Leia's eyes as well. Ultimately, the story is reflecting on Vader's / Anakin's desire to control the Force, and that, for all intents and purposes, he was practically fighting with the Force to be able to master it, to control it, to direct it the way he wanted. And now, with the the benefit of hindsight and maturity, and having transferred back to the light side of the Force, he is able to give up that sense of control. He is able to let go, and he is able to now then finally be at peace and to reconcile himself with the Force, and I think naturally and easily then be absorbed into the cosmic Force, and obviously to be able to show up every now and again from time to time afterward, because he figured out how to do it really quickly, that's for sure. And so that's what I've got for you about Brotherhood, which is Mike Chen's story for the From a Certain Point of View collection celebrating 40 years of Return of the Jedi. And that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. And if you are enjoying the podcast, and in particular this series of looks at that short story collection, or just recently the run that we did with Jedi Fallen Order, or anything like that, if you think it's worthwhile to share with other Star Wars fans that you know, then I hope you will consider doing that. It also helps a lot to get the podcast seen and heard by more people if you share ratings and reviews and all that good stuff. So thank you very much for considering doing that. I really appreciate it. And Star Wars fans that you know, and some even that you don't know, will probably appreciate it too. So it just remains for me to say thank you so much for joining me for this episode, as always, and may the Force be with you wherever in the world you may be.
Star Wars 7x7 is not endorsed or sponsored yet by Lucasfilm Limited, Disney, or 20th Century Fox, and is intended for entertainment and information purposes only. Star Wars, the Star Wars logo, all names and pictures of Star Wars characters, vehicles, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Lucasfilm Limited, or their respective trademark and copyright holders. May the Force be with them. All original content is copyrighted by Star Wars 7x7. We hope you love it.